There were messages where she seemingly wants to have a freak off, says things like, LOL, I can't wait. The prosecution asked her, why would you say that if you didn't really want to do it? And she explained that she said those things because she was fearful of Combs.
The testimony, again, graphic. Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, at one point walking out of court as his wife was peppered with questions about allegedly being raped.
Is there anything that you may want to confess tonight before you go in?
I keep everything right here.
There you go.
Or right here.
There you go.
Sean P. Diddy Combs' family arrived for day one of his sex trafficking trial.
How is your father feeling today?
They walked into the federal courthouse in Manhattan, hand in hand, in a gesture of solidarity. Diddy's 85-year-old mom, Janice Combs, arrived separately.
The whole entire family will be here today.
This past week, the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs finally stepped out of sealed filings and into open court. And what followed was a series of shocking revelations, testimonies, and cross-examinations that peeled back the layers of a case now at the center of national scrutiny. It all began on May 5th with jury selection, but it wasn't until the week of May 12th that the courtroom really lit up. That's when the prosecution began unveiling its case, calling forward witnesses and presenting evidence to support charges that include sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and racketeering conspiracy. According to prosecutors, this isn't just a matter of bad behavior. It's a long-running, organized operation that used Diddy's wealth, influence, and inner circle to cover, execute, and repeat. Combs, through his legal team, has pleaded not guilty to every count and is fighting back by questioning both the credibility of the witnesses and the interpretations being drawn from the evidence. But it was the first major witness who truly grabbed the courtroom's attention and dominated the headlines: Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura. Over the course of 4 days on the stand, Cassie, a singer and former romantic partner of Combs, laid out a timeline of her decade-long relationship with Diddy.
Ms. Ventura, you loved Mr. Combs, correct?
I did.
For 11 years, you took care of him?
In some ways.
You called him larger than life?
I did.
Others called him Diddy or Puff Daddy, but you called him Sean, right?
Yes.
You knew a version of him the rest of the world couldn't see, right?
Objection. Overruled.
In ways.
You kept coming back to him for 11 years?
I wouldn't say coming back.
She testified that she was repeatedly coerced into so-called freak-offs, multi-person sexual encounters, allegedly arranged by Combs that often involved male escorts, heavy drug use, and surveillance. But it gets even deeper. Cassie stated that these encounters weren't spontaneous or consensual group experiences. Instead, she said they were planned, recorded, and used as a form of emotional control.
What about blackmail material?
He wanted me to fear.
Objection.
Overruled.
When would Sean mention the freak-off videos?
To hurt me. One time I was dating someone else, and he threatened to release the freak-off videos. I'd have to answer to my mother. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone.
What did Sean say the impact would be?
Shame.
According to her, the expectation was clear: participate or face consequences, whether in the form of verbal threats, withheld support, or in some cases, physical violence. And the most widely discussed incident from her testimony came from 2016 at a hotel in Los Angeles. Surveillance footage, which was played in court and identified by Cassie herself, allegedly showed Combs physically assaulting her in a hallway before dragging her back into their room. She testified that this was not an isolated moment, but part of a broader pattern of abuse.
I'm going to show you the LA Intercontinental hallway again. Play from 143 to 146. Who enters?
Sean.
What's in his hand?
He doesn't appear to have anything.
Play to 159. Now anything in his hand?
My phone.
How did he get it?
Well, he took all of my stuff.
Where does he end up?
Sitting in a chair in front of the window.
What are you doing?
I'm walking away from him.
Now who's in the video?
Me and security.
In this one, play from 531. Where did you go from the hotel?
To my house. I took an Uber.
Now let's turn to text messages. Can you read page 4?
Call. I'm surrounded.
Who sent that?
From Sean. He was running around in a towel. I told him to put the robe on.
The footage reportedly silenced the entire courtroom. Cassie told the court that she would give back the terms of the multi-million-dollar civil settlement she received in 2023 just to erase the trauma of what she'd lived through. But the trial wasn't a one-sided narrative. As the prosecution laid out its case, Diddy's defense stepped in quickly with cross-examination led by attorney Ana Estevao. Her goal was simple: challenge the timeline, the memory, and the framing of Cassie's testimony.
You believe Mr. Combs was blackout for the Intercontinental event?
I believe he was intoxicated. Everyone's definition is different.
But you said blackout.
The defense introduced text messages between Cassie and Combs that were sent after some of the alleged incidents, arguing that the communication suggested continued intimacy and mutual decision-making. In one line of questioning, Estevao pushed Cassie to explain why she stayed, why she traveled with Combs, and why some messages appeared affectionate even after events Cassie characterized as traumatic.
Please read this. 1,364.
I haven't talked to you at all. You don't even try. You rush me off the phone. I'm really hurt. I don't need your money, I need some attention.
You wanted your special time with Mr. Combs?
Yes?
You testified that you told him, "I love you so much, you make me a better woman."
I definitely wrote those messages.
You wrote, "I can't wait until we have a baby of our own." You knew that he had 6 children at the time?
Yes?
The implication that what was being presented as coercion could have been a complex consensual relationship colored by regret and legal reframing. And here's where the battle over narrative got even more intense. The defense pointed to financial support Cassie allegedly received from Combs during their relationship, support that they say continued even during the time she now describes as abusive. They questioned her drug use, suggesting that her recollection of certain events could be affected by MDMA, which she admitted to using during many of the alleged freak-off encounters.
You would remember if an assistant came in during one of your sessions with an escort?
Not necessarily. I was high.
So you don't remember much.
I had my privacy invaded a lot during that relationship.
One piece of evidence that the defense used changed everything. A voice recording of Cassie Ventura making serious threats due to there being a sexually explicit video of her that she had no access to.
I'm gonna play you some audio.
If you saw a video of someone me, who was me? You have it. Why didn't you show me? 'Cause I'm not disrespectful, bro. If you don't show me, I will kill you, cut you up. I will kill you. I've never killed anyone in my life. I am going to you up. It's not going to be blood on my hands. Someone else is going to do it. I'm not playing with you, Sujit. Tell me.
That was you, right?
Yes.
During the trial, the defense did make solid arguments, but seemed a little desperate as they used pieces of evidence that they never officially submitted to support their claims.
Bring up this defense exhibit.
Objection. Not in evidence.
That's true. This is not in evidence.
But while the defense attempted to shake her credibility, the prosecution brought in backup to support her account. One of the most crucial testimonies came from hotel security guard Israel Flores. According to his statement, he was working at the hotel on the night of the 2016 Los Angeles incident. Flores testified that he saw Cassie attempting to flee Combs, visibly distressed, and that Combs followed her in a rage. Afterward, Flores claimed that Combs offered him money to forget what he'd seen, a statement introduced to suggest a possible cover-up attempt, and that's not where it ended. Another witness, male escort Daniel Phillip, stepped forward and testified that he had been hired by Combs' team multiple times to engage in sexual acts with Cassie while Combs watched. Phillip's account included specific details, the locations, the setup, and the instructions he said he received. According to Phillip, these sessions weren't casual. They were organized, paid for, and at least once recorded. He stated that he was instructed to stay silent. His testimony lined up closely with Cassie's, especially in the way the prosecution described the structure behind these encounters. In both cases, it wasn't just about what happened, but how it happened and who made it happen. And that led to one of the most serious threads in the case, the logistics. Prosecutors introduced records showing encrypted messaging between Combs and his staff, hotel reservations that lined up with the witness timelines, and mentions of NDAs that were reportedly signed by individuals connected to these events. This evidence, they argued, suggested that the freak-offs weren't accidents or one-offs. They were planned in advance, secured legally, and carried out under a veil of protection provided by Combs' assistants, security, and legal team. The prosecution stopped short of saying all of those individuals were criminally liable, but the implication was clear. This wasn't something that could have been done alone. It was, in their words, a system, a pattern, and one that had gone unchecked for years. The defense has not yet presented its own full slate of witnesses, but filings and statements so far suggest they will push back on the idea that any system ever existed. Instead, they're expected to argue that these were personal choices in a toxic relationship. Dramatic and destructive, yes, but not criminal in the way they're being framed. Meanwhile, outside the battle of he said, she said, another fight began brewing over transparency. Inner City Press filed a motion midweek requesting that multiple sealed or redacted court documents related to the trial be opened to the public. The argument was that this is a matter of public interest, and that the public has the right to see how justice is being administered in real time. Judge R.N. Subramanian acknowledged the motion, and by week's end, one previously sealed document was added to the public docket. It's a small development, but in a trial that's already revealing so much, every unsealed page may bring even more to light. As the first week of the trial came to a close, the prosecution wasn't done laying the groundwork. Instead, they turned to another key theme: structure. Not just the structure of the alleged events themselves, but the infrastructure behind them. According to the evidence and testimonies introduced so far, prosecutors suggested that what happened wasn't a case of random celebrity misconduct or an isolated toxic relationship. They argued that it was an organized framework of enablers, resources, and intentional secrecy. Witnesses testified to a pattern of controlled logistics, from hotel suites booked discreetly under aliases, to transportation arranged via private staff, to security guards present at properties where the alleged acts occurred. Prosecutors used this to support their claim that Combs did not act alone or spontaneously. They argued that his lifestyle, status, and the people he employed created a protective shell around him that allowed these events to be repeated without intervention. And it gets even deeper when you look at the digital trail. According to court proceedings observed and reported by Inner City Press, messages exchanged between Combs and his inner circle showed encrypted communication regarding the scheduling of meetings, transportation for unnamed guests, and reminders about non-disclosure agreements. While not every message spelled things out directly, prosecutors used the context of the witness testimonies to connect these dots, presenting these communications as part of a coordinated system. These messages weren't presented as smoking guns on their own, but rather as threads in a broader web. The implication that the same names, places, and practices came up too consistently to be coincidental. But while the prosecution built that narrative, the defense spent the latter half of the week working to chip away at its foundation. They argued that the prosecution was selectively framing evidence to tell a story of criminal enterprise where there may have only been bad decisions, dysfunctional relationships, and blurred moral boundaries. In filings and courtroom statements, Combs' legal team indicated that they would introduce alternate explanations for the encrypted messages, the witness payments, and the alleged coercion. They haven't yet presented their full slate of witnesses, but their position is clear. They say that what's being called a system is really just the controlled chaos of celebrity life, a world of NDAs, high-stakes relationships, and staff who manage everything from travel to privacy. They argue that Ventura's testimony, while emotional, doesn't prove criminal conduct, and that other witnesses like Daniel Phillip may have personal or financial incentives to testify in ways that support the government's theory. They've also suggested that Ventura's civil settlement, which was reached before criminal charges were filed, calls into question the timeline and legal motivations of the case overall. One element that added even more complexity to the proceedings was the ongoing tension over media access and sealed documents. Inner City Press's motion, asking that sealed docket entries be made available to the public, cited a public right to access federal court proceedings, especially in high-profile cases involving public figures. Judge Aaron Subramanian acknowledged the filing and later that week responded by unsealing at least one document, though it's unclear what will come next. This back and forth over transparency has already set the tone for what could become a parallel legal fight over public access, while the defense and the prosecution challenge each other too. Full-blown chaos, a triangular battle, with so much of this trial hinging on what happened behind closed doors, whether in hotel rooms or through encrypted chats. The question of who gets to see the full picture is just as important as what's being alleged in court. Meanwhile, the trial schedule for the coming weeks is already packed. The prosecution is expected to call several more witnesses who allegedly had direct experiences involving Combs. These include two women referred to as Jane and Mia, who, according to pretrial filings, will offer testimony similar to Ventura's. They are expected to describe scenarios involving travel arranged by Combs' team, substance use, unwanted sexual encounters, and post-event intimidation. The prosecution may also introduce expert witnesses who can speak to the psychological impact of long-term coercion, trauma bonding, and manipulation, with the goal of reinforcing Ventura's testimony and giving jurors a framework for understanding how victims can appear compliant on the surface while still experiencing coercion. On the other side, the defense is preparing its rebuttal. While names of potential defense witnesses haven't been confirmed publicly, legal analysts following the case anticipate that Combs' lawyers will focus heavily on text messages, post-incident travel logs, and character references from individuals in his orbit. They may also challenge the scope of the racketeering charge, arguing that even if certain allegations are true, they don't amount to a criminal enterprise under the law. Another key point that could surface next week is the financial aspect, both in terms of the settlements previously paid out and the compensation or employment provided to people now testifying against Combs. According to public filings, some individuals previously received payments from Combs or entities connected to his businesses, and the defense is expected to use that to raise questions about motive. Were these witnesses pressured, paid, promised immunity, or protection. It's not clear yet how far that argument will go, but you can expect it to be a central theme as the trial progresses. At this point, 1 week into the proceedings, what's clear is that this case is not just about one relationship, one night, or one accusation. It's about a larger pattern the government claims stretched over years and involved more than just one person. It's also about secrecy, systems of silence, and whether those systems were accidental byproducts of fame or something deliberately designed to protect behavior prosecutors say was illegal. For Sean Diddy Combs, the stakes couldn't be higher, not just legally, but publicly. With each day in court, more details emerge, more names come up, and more past events are put under a microscope. And for the viewers watching this unfold in real time, the story is far from over. There are more testimonies to come, more documents likely to be unsealed, and more chances for both sides to try to control the narrative before the jury ultimately makes its decision. So, what do you think about everything that's been revealed so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know your take. And if you want to stay locked in as this story keeps developing, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single update. We'll be breaking down every major moment from this case, all backed by court transcripts, official records, and live reports. No spin, no fluff. Thanks for watching.